fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more.
Hello there, I'm Deathly Pale. Welcome to the Flashing Bloke podcast. With me is Brian.
Hello.
Waving just like somebody out of Trumpton. And, of course, Eddie. Prisoner hat tonight, then, dear. With a muted
You're
microphone.
Muted, Eddie.
There we go. Yes, prisoner.
Our standards have already started.
Yeah, it starts with me to go.
It's amazing. Oh, we're terrible. We are just so... Anyway, and our very special guest, wearing, of course, I was going to say Betty Turner. That's wrong.
Bet Lynch.
Thank you very much. Wearing one of her dresses as a headband. It's Toby Hadoke, everyone.
Hello. It's lockdown. I thought I could put on any old thing. I've been experimenting in more ways than one.
Okay, possibly.
I've had all the facial hair you could possibly imagine.
Okay, I think we need to move on from this because you're actually talking live and it could go a bit wonky. How are you, Toby?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm a bit knackered. I stayed up late last night. I'm sleeping at the wrong ends of the day, but I'm okay. I have nothing to complain about.
That's fair enough, and it's good to hear in this day and age.
Yeah.
What about you, boys? What sort of week have you had, Brian?
Slow. Dragging.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It being expendable, I mean, essential is not exactly a fun thing all the time.
Well, because you had all the snow as well. Surely you had a couple of days off work for that.
Yeah, no, we don't.
I swear they've got worse. Because you were working at home at one point.
Yes. And then I was working at home up until October, and then they decided that they want us back on full time.
You're obviously
all the time.
Very, very essential.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, there's Eddie down there. How's it been? You've had warmer weather than us, haven't you?
No. For the last 2 days, the temperature dropped, so we've got the snow, but it's gone now. There's been some rain, so we're back to the kind of winter that we're not really used to, which is quite mild. So our snow's gone. It was there for about a day or two, and then it went away. In terms of the rest of my week, pretty much as is. Running out of stuff to watch, which is pretty concerning. So I'm going back to my youth. And I sent you the link, Brian. There's a show, I don't know if you used to can remember it, called Starfleet. It used to be on Saturday mornings, and it was like a Japanese Thunderbird.
Yeah. I never watched it.
I've done research into it. Yeah, it was a Japanese like puppet type deal.
That's great. But it would never make TV these days because like the main protagonist is a pipe smoker, so that's it. It was like no chance he'd ever make TV at all now. But it's really good. So I thoroughly recommend it. It's on YouTube. Starfleet. Brian May was a big fan and did a version of the theme song, which is
that's what I saw.
Yeah, so that was like for years I've talked about this and people looked at me as if, well, no, you're talking rubbish. It's on YouTube. I've got evidence. I've got proof. I'm a card carrying certificately saying now, great stuff.
To be fair, having Brian May do the theme tune's pretty good, but if you get Paul McCartney to do it, Crossroads,
right there.
I mean, and they only played it on a sad episode.
Yes, it was always a sad kind of music at the end with a guitar.
Music by Paul McCartney and Wings.
Toby, were you ever in Crossroads? Did you ever make the Crossroads Motel?
I don't think he's old enough.
No, because they did the comeback, because obviously it was before my time originally, but then they did the comeback, didn't they? But no, I never crossed the threshold. I'm not sad that I didn't.
I know that what's it? Tony Adams, Chance.
Adam Chance.
I know he ended up killing Jill.
Yeah, which must have been a bit of a because I remember being quite pleased that they brought some of the originals back, and then poor old Jill, who was the sort of the big splash of she's the main one that she brought back, and then they killed her within 9 months. Yeah. Whereas I'm sure for a lot of Crossroads fans that character would live forever because if Crossroads hadn't carried on, but instead they killed her off.
I get earwormed by the theme tune quite a lot, which
Yeah?
is sort of annoying, but at the same time, it's a good piece of music.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of good pieces of music, Eddie, I found it.
Yeah, it's great. It was Brian May's kid was a fan of Starfleet, and he started getting into it and decided he was going to do a cover version of the theme song. And I think Eddie Van Halen is involved as well.
Oh, good
So
lord.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
blimey.
So it's a cult piece of TV that people forget about, and all 24 episodes are on YouTube, so it's worth a watch.
Fair
If
enough.
you like your spaceships, robots, like Super Mario Nation rip-off explosions, it's the program for you.
Okay, fair enough. Might have to have a look at that. Don't worry, you're going to have stuff to watch this week.
Cool.
Okay. I can tell you, folks, that next week we will be looking at... what was it I was going to do? Oh, yes, Planet of the Daleks, in which there's a planet with some Daleks on it.
This is my shocked face.
And then the Fourth Doctor Adventures, in which the Fourth Doctor has some adventures. Then They Stole Hitler's Brain, or something, for the Tomorrow People. And
God.
then I think it's Project Avalon for Blake Seven.
Ah.
Brian's been
It's Blake
anxious
Seven's that
to
are getting
watch,
going.
go through all this. And the thing is, he's not seen the last episode, so...
Oh,
It's
okay.
okay.
I bet you've seen it somewhere. You've seen the
I
spoiler, so
probably
you're just trying to be
have
nice
at some
to me.
point. I just don't remember it.
Oh, once seen.
Yeah.
Dot. Right then. Toby is here because the boys are taking their podcast examination, their entrance level podcast examination. We've got Toby because Toby's a lovely guy and quite frankly can't stop talking. I indeed, having listened to your new podcast, hi Radox, listening to your new podcasts, I need to hand over the sash for Queen of Babel to you.
One has the thing about a podcast is one has to keep talking, otherwise there's silence, and so it's against one's own instincts for sort of politeness. But if you're the only one there, you've got to keep talking. I envy those. Well, I don't envy people that have got, say, a triumvirate, because in a way, then you have to work with other people's schedules. Whereas I deliberately came up with stuff where it was just me, so that then I was just responsible to myself. I could only let myself down, and I only had to tie in with my own schedule. That means I have to do all the talking.
That's fair enough. You do it very well. And to be fair, it could be worse because you could be with Kevin Davies. You and I ended up meeting a couple of times up in Hammersmith.
Yeah.
Sitting with you and Davies, it's worth the price of admission alone.
Oh, I love Kevin. He's a great guy. I haven't spoken to him in ages.
He used to co-host on this.
Yeah.
Had him on as a guest, realised he could talk 10 to the dozen, and thought, actually, I think he'd be rather good. So I asked him, and he said, yeah, all right, could be fun. So, yeah, but I mean, you got Happy Times and Places, the theme tune to which terrifies my dog. She's got a thing. I've said this to the boys. You know the descending whistle, either a firework or a bomb being dropped from a plane. You know,
Yeah.
terrifies her. And of course, you've got.
Oh, well, the Sting is a bit like that.
Yeah, and she runs.
Oh.
It's the same with the What Culture ident logo with Sting. She's gone.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. It's not your fault. And you've got Happy Times and Places in which essentially you do a commentary.
Yeah.
What's the
'Cause I haven't
special
done
thing?
enough commentaries on Doctor Who episodes in my time.
But I mean, you've got you have guests on every week.
Well, I think it's bad enough that I do all the talking. So I thought I needed a guest element to give each one a different dynamic, and also to have a challenge element, because I was just going to do commentaries, and a friend of mine said, well, why do you need some sort of drama, you need some sort of quest element to it. So and then when I started off, I made it far too complicated, and I've sort of boiled it down to what it is now, where I needed somebody to nominate a story, but also to tell me what their favorite things about it are. But what's been nice about that is it means that the guest has dictated the style of the piece. So if it's a writer, there's a very clever writer I've had on called Dan Rebolato, who does the Rebus operation. He goes into great detail about the script and the world building, and he's
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And then other people come in and do. I mean, somebody's done a song, and then somebody else talks about it from their own perspective and their own childhood. So and then Richard Marson has just done one that's coming up where he didn't want to sort of talk into a vacuum. He wanted to have a conversation. So again, but because it's a flexible format, so I watched the story and chose my things, and then I chatted to him afterwards instead. But I took the opportunity to talk to him because it was a story he'd watched as a kid, to talk to him about sort of Doctor Who fandom before my time. So got a really interesting window into that. So as well as doing a different story every time, I'm doing it from a different person's perspective. And it's showcasing the sort of different types of Doctor Who fans that there are. So I've also reached out to a lot of the new Who fans that I might have met at conventions or stuff to try and get the younger people involved.
We do have a youth on this show. The trouble is, he's very in demand. I don't know if
He's very popular.
Dominic.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes. So your podcast has a purpose, structure, a form.
It's only going to confuse you.
No, I'm just writing this down. So
He's writing down production notes.
Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, well, next week you can run it.
no.
But I mean, so you got Happy Times and Places, which reminds me, you do know that my bit's 10 minutes long.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And there was another thing. You did say to plug stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried I may have overdone that, but we'll wait and see.
No, I think I also think that's great because I like, I like the idea that somebody might listen to my podcast and listen to Dan's Radio 4 play, say, or Emma Reeves, who just by coincidence, who's done this week's, which is Time Lash, is also the writer and producer of Tracy Beaker that's just out.
Yes.
So, which I hadn't realised when I released it. I hadn't realised. So I quite like the fact that it will take people into other people's creative spheres as well. I think that's all good. I think that's great.
I didn't realise Richard Marsden was the Richard Marsden from Doctor Who Monthly. I never thought he was old enough.
Well, that's what I asked him about that, and he was about 17.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And you know, letrasettes in a bag from the
A5 zines.
And being phoned by the Doctor Who production office when he was at university, and there was a payphone in the corridor, you know, and all of that, which is fascinating stuff.
So you got Happy Times and Places. I'm going to get all this out of the way and hand over to the boys. You've got two more, I seem to remember.
Yes. Oh, before we jump off Happy Times and Places, the other thing about it as an episode commentary is that I'm asking people to choose their favourite things about it, was because a lot of Doctor Who fans, and it's so easy to do, and I find myself falling into it if I'm not careful. And when I first went onto forums and stuff, I'd go, I'm going to see what else people like about the show that I really like. And actually, it's so much easier to slag off a story or get annoyed with it. And there's value in that, and it can be quite fun, you know, slagging off the thing you love with your mates. But I just thought there was a gap. And it was, again, to try and have something that's made it different from a lot of the other episode commentaries out there, is that the idea is that I have to accentuate the positive,
yes,
and I have to find out what it is my special guest likes rather than what they don't like. So that means I'm already going into it looking for the good things, which a lot of the times is really easy. I've just done Robots of Death that Gary Russell nominated. That was a breeze.
I'm surprised he didn't choose a Pertwee episode.
Sorry?
I'm surprised he didn't choose a Pertwee episode. He loves his Pertwee.
Yes, I've been surprised by the choices of quite a few people. Gavin Rymel didn't choose a Dalek story. I know.
Bit of warning in future, please.
Yeah. And I think I also thought nobody has yet chosen Genesis of the Daleks, but what have I got coming up? Underworld, The Twin Dilemma, and other things have been. So I think people also have a slight sense of humour and have gone, all right, mate, see what you can find about positive about this. But the person that's chosen Underworld then texted me and said, I've just done episode 4. Of course, I forgot when I said it for you that I have to enjoy it as well.
I like Underworld. It's cosy.
I haven't seen it in such a long time. I will be interested to see.
The CSO isn't as bad as people say. It's just there's a lot of it, and it's
remember
better than
episode
Mrs.
one,
Farrell's Kitchen, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Dear me. Right then, boys. Well, no, hang on a second. You got 2 other podcasts as well, I seem to remember.
Yes, one is called Indefinable Magic, and that was the first podcast idea that I had when I thought I would do a podcast, which is I quite like listening to sort of Thought for the Day on Radio 4. I quite like listening to David Steris. I quite like listening to sort of whimsical monologues. And I thought nobody's ever really done that with Doctor Who, a sort of, a 20-minute, half-hour verbal essay on some aspect of it, and some of it might be to do with childhood experiences. I thought people might find that a bit tedious, but those have been the ones that people have connected with, because everyone's got their own childhood experience. So very nostalgic and honest and autobiographical. But then the next week it might be the history of carrots in Doctor Who, and it's just a chance for me to be a bit arcane, but also, I write jokes, I perform jokes, so that hopefully, even if it doesn't really matter that it's about carrots in Doctor Who, I get to do some jokes and be entertained, but also do something that's slightly different. So it's a sort of it's what if Radio 4 had a Doctor Who channel, it would be their sort of 6:30 in the evening program, a sort of a comic monologue that has a bit of investigation about it. But they take quite a long time to do, so that's when I came up with the idea of doing the commentaries, because it's writing half an hour of comedy every week, which would be quite, and then recording it and editing it and all that.
What's the other one? I'm sure there's a third.
This is the one that takes forever. Too Much Information.
Yes.
Which is an episode by episode oral history of Doctor Who, everything you need to know, when it was done, what was done, how it was done, and then biographies of the people. So it's, it goes through, this was filmed on this date, this, when the script came in, it was like this, and this was taken out and this was changed, because we've got the written history of Doctor Who. We've had a few of the documentaries that don't go into the day by day quite so much. So I thought, well, I'll just break it. I'll get all that information, most of which is out there, but I've also sort of got some research that I've done into, say, all the kids who played the school children in the first episode of Doctor Who. I found out everything about, well, what there is to find out about those people, and put it all in a quite hardcore, but again, I hope the style of it and the presentation of it is quite accessible. I keep it upbeat. I keep the phraseology not too dry, and there's a great score by Wayne Shepherd, who's a movie scorer, who did it for me as a huge favor and did me a beautiful work. So I basically, because I was throwing it out there for free, I thought, well, I'll just do what I want. And if people don't like it, they don't have to listen. And so I made that quite, so getting this, so it's very documentary heavy, but again, because I'm doing it, I thought, well, I don't want to do it dry. I'll and also if there's a detail that I really want to find out, I'll find it out and throw it in there. Nobody else might care to know anything about the guy who played the shadow that falls across the landscape at the end of the very first episode, but I think that's really interesting, because who is that guy? Well, I tell you what I know.
It's basically an audio version of Andrew Pixley.
Yeah.
But with extra additional stuff you've researched. I mean, it was fascinating to hear about Kenneth Williams in An Unearthly Child.
Yes. Well, you haven't heard all about him, because I've found out more since, because there wasn't much there, by a really tiny and weird coincidence. I basically found out everything about all but 2 of the school kids in An Unearthly Child. And of course, everybody goes, oh, what about the one who does the Kenneth Williams bit? And I went, that's the one I haven't actually found that much about. And then one of the people on my Patreon page just went, oh, actually, I've met his widow. So it's just by a massive weird coincidence. The one that I really wanted to find out about, because he was called Richard Wilson, which, Google actor Richard Wilson, you're going to get Victor Meldrew. Google Richard Wilson anyway, they're not uncommon names either. And he just had this patron of mine, who is a guy I've actually met, as it turns out. He's a policeman who stopped me once. This is really, I was doing a gig, the last gig before Christmas in Preston, and I thought, oh, it's Christmas, and feeling festive, I'll wear my Doctor Who scarf. So never, why not? And I was walking back, and you always feel quite good when you've done the last gig before Christmas because they're usually horrible. And so as a comedian, when you stop work at Christmas, you're feeling pretty good. And I was just about getting home. This police car pulled up, and I went, "Oh no, oh, what's happened? What's going on? What?" And you suddenly get really paranoid because you think, "Hang on, I'm stopping for Christmas. Come on, let me have this. What have I done? What have I done?" And this policeman gets out, and he said, "It's Toby, isn't it?" And I was just like, "Oh fuck, has somebody died?" Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to swear.
No. Feel free.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
Has somebody died? What's happened? Has somebody been arrested? And he said, "I just want to say thanks for all your documentaries on the Doctor Who TV."
Wow.
And this guy Rick then said, "Look, I know about the Kenneth Williams guy in An Unearthly Child," and he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm the guy that stopped you that night." So then he put me in touch with the widow of this guy, and so now I know actually more than is in the podcast, and I'll make a separate podcast of that.
Addendums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You got a Patreon?
I do. Yes.
It's just Toby Hadoke, isn't it?
Yeah, I weighed up long and hard about doing that, but I'm told it's the way to do things these days. I mean, I try to. The stuff all goes out there for free. Anyway, the patrons get advanced stuff, and they get a few bits and bobs of extra stuff. And actually, I really like it because it means you can throw stuff out there, and it's quite sort of. I hate the phrase safe space, but it does feel like I can throw bits out there, and if they don't work, everybody's nice enough to.
Yeah.
It's just it feels safe to do it. And also it means that and the internet can be quite mean, and it's pretty horrible, if you throw stuff out there, you throw a video out there, and even if 1,000 people watch it and 43 people put a thumbs up, that one person that puts the thumbs down, you go, "Oh, I put loads of effort into that. Why have you what?" And it ruins your day. So it is quite a horrible landscape in that way. So having a place where you can just go, "Well, I've written this thing, and I don't want to put that out there to everybody because I know what's wrong with it." Do you know what I mean? I don't need you to say, didn't like that. But it's quite nice to have people who are well disposed towards you because they're prepared to give you a couple of quid a month or whatever to go, "Well, here you go, guys. I hope you like this." And that's quite empowering. Although, as I say, I'm still not quite used to the thing of you want to sort of go in cap in hand a little bit, but it seems to be in one way of doing things, and some very well off and very successful comedians have a Patreon page. So I have to just swallow my pride and do it also because all the places that I work are closed down.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on. The boys are going to start talking. By the way, boys, please notice the cardigan of doom has spread.
Oh, it has. It has indeed.
It has?
Yep, it's now just blackness.
You're going on Nuke's top 5, no problem.
No,
I
I think
that thing's going to get you.
I think it's the thing from the second Sapphire and Steel story, the darkness.
Ooh.
No, it's definitely the guy for the public information picture around the dark waters thing. It's
The Dark and Lonely Waters.
yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Well, clearly you're going to have to stay out of diners and away from puddles.
Yeah, definitely. And, of course, don't throw any discus into an electricity pylon.
Oh,
No.
Well, that goes without saying.
It's true. All right, then, boys, I am going to mute. How long did each of you say I was going to... You thought
We'd rather not say in case we kind
You
of...
said it last week, and if I'm blunt with you, you've missed out on a way of basically giving me money. You could have bribed me to win this.
Well, for all I know, Brian already has.
I've no idea. I'm going to beat myself because I interrupt, and I don't want to do this. So I'm just going to sit here and listen and enjoy yourselves, basically. It's over to you.
Okay.
So you can gather from that then Toby Siobhan doesn't want to speak to you, so I can only apologise for her rudeness.
I haven't... Oh, there we go, 10 seconds.
Yes!
Actually, I think you do, Brian. Basically, I'm just too embarrassed to talk to him. A couple of years ago, we recorded around his house, and we coated his lounge floor with paper. Still embarrassed about that.
Learned the lesson of putting page numbers on before printing.
Embarrassed and a bit angry with myself. But, yes, sorry about that. Let's try this again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just quite quick because Brian's done a lot of kind of research. So Brian's the governor. But
I
Toby, I know you as the voice of Radio 4 for the kind of the 6:30 sci-fi hour.
Yeah.
How did you get that gig? What was the way in for that? Because I'm thinking as somebody with a kind of great accent for kind of radio and public speaking, it's something I maybe consider for the future.
Well, it's do you know what? It's one of those things they sort of say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not quite the same as that, but I was at the Edinburgh Fringe doing a show, and I don't think that had anything to do with it actually, but there was a BBC producer up there, and Nick Briggs was the regular voice of this slot, who'd obviously got it because he's the voice of the Daleks and there's Big Finish stuff on, and he'd very much made that slot his own. But then he had to play Sherlock Holmes in Nottingham for 3 months or something, and was not going to be able to get to Broadcasting House to do, because it was weekly then, to do the weekly recording. And he may have suggested me, I can't remember now. And certainly Martin, this producer, said, did he say I was thinking of this? And he came to see my show. So I think he'd emailed me beforehand, and then he came to see my show and said, look, I've got a proposition to put to you or something. And just said, look, Nick's going away for 3 months. Would you be able to do it? Would you be able to get to Broadcasting House? For I think it was 12 weeks, I think. And of course, I absolutely jumped at the chance. And then Nick came back, and it became Nick's again. And then I think he was off a couple of times, and I filled in. And then he decided he couldn't do it regularly anymore. And they decided to have a roster, because he could still do it sometimes.
Yeah.
So they asked me, and they asked a few other people as well. And then gradually over time, people either stopped doing it or moved away to other things. There was Andrew O'Neill, who's a perfect fit for it, but he did some stuff at the comedy club rather than the sci-fi thing. So and they gradually sort of whittled it down, or erosion got it down to the regular 4 now, which is Nick Briggs, myself, Natalie Haynes, with whom I go back years, and Dan Mersh. And we now just take it in turns. So yeah, it started as a one-off thing, and has now been nearly 10 years. And I'm very lucky, because one year I did the Christmas, and to fill in the stuff at the end of the year, when I think they'd got one program, and I said, well, or there was a bit of a gap. So instead of doing the continuity, I did a sort of list of people that we'd lost this year, sort of thing. And gradually that grew and grew and grew. And so then they went, well, we'll schedule you in every Christmas and New Year, so you can always do that. And then this year they actually gave me a program, rather than, so they didn't, instead of booking a 15-minute, play reading or short story or whatever, they said, well, we'll give that over to you, and we'll actually make it as a show, so that then, because sometimes the continuity doesn't go on iPlayer or BBC Sounds or whatever, they just have the programs, and you only get the sort of beginning and an end. So because this has its own scheduled show, it meant it went up on the social media and could then be listened to for the whole month. So that was really nice, because that was something that I just sort of fed in there. And for me, really, and because it was the sort of thing I like to do, but I like the fact that they responded to that and went, oh no, that's a nice thing to do, and has gradually given it more and more power, as it were.
Now, here in question time, we'll hand over to the lady from Crawley.
Yes. I'd like to ask why. No, I'm just breaking in quickly to say to people in chat, feel free to ask questions. We'll pass them on, okay?
Yes. What's the name of this program? Is it still on BBC Sounds?
It's gone now, because it was on January the 2nd, I think, January the 3rd. So it's gone now. It was called Absent Friends. But if you missed it, I can send you a copy, Eddie. I can.
That'd be lovely. Thank you. Oh, cool.
Because I've just got it's just me. I have to be very quick, because I've got 15 minutes. So it has to be a sort of, but I don't want it to just be a list. And because it was a program, they've actually started giving me clips now as well. But of course, the more clips you get, the fewer people you could mention. So actually, I probably, when it was just me doing a quick run through, I probably got to mention more people than I did when I got a proper show. But when I got a proper show, I got clips and this, that, and the other.
Like you said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if your 4 needs a 5th, and it's somebody that nobody can understand their accent, Glaswegian, I'll throw my hat into the ring for that. But
I think the Glaswegian accent is better with voice work.
Oh, no. Every week I have to put this up, and I'm going to put it up now just as an excuse to put it up, just in case. Unworthy of the diamond logo. Don't listen to a word this man says.
I get it all the time, so I've made into a hat. So I'll hand over to Brian. Brian, you actually had some decent questions. So
I was just gonna ask, before the show we were talking about your comedy thing on Twitch.
Yeah. Well, that happens. I'm I never set out to be the professional anorak. I had no aspirations to do Doctor Who's, to talk about Doctor Who beyond it, in a pub or with friends. But I'm a professional comic and a professional actor, and part of that mosaic of freelance work that I have is that I started a comedy club. Again, I've spent most of my career making work for myself rather than waiting around for other people to do it, because they don't seem perhaps as keen as I'd like them to be. I don't know. So I started. I was gigging, and I got the opportunity to do a comedy night at a pub through various. I won't go into the boring details of that, but I started this comedy night that I thought would be an 8-week booking, and it's now 24 years later. So I think it's the
wow.
It's rather a long running independent, one of the longest. I think the longest running weekly independent comedy night, I think. And the minute we went into lockdown, I'm very lucky because it's a comedy club that is fueled by love, because nobody really makes any money out of it. I run it on a non-profit making basis so that we don't get stag do's or hen do's or office parties. It's more the sort of place that sort of misfits, for want of a better word. It's, and comedy fans, it's not as mainstream as the sort of big weekend clubs. It's a place where people come on a Tuesday night. The percentage of Dungeons and Dragons players in a comedy audience is probably at its highest at XS Malarkey. But people come and pass through, and it's had all the great names that have played it. But as a result, I started it on my own. It was just me. And gradually, as it's gone through, I've had, people who know about sound and people who can print ticket offer their services. And so now there's a group of us run it. It's a sort of collective. And Roz, who took over booking the acts, which I used to do as well, and stopped about 4 or 5 years ago, she started collecting tickets on the door and said, "Oh, can I do a little bit more?" And blah, 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 blah. She's been brilliant. And so when lockdown happened, Roz and the team basically said, well, look, as we can't open the comedy club this week, why don't you do a load of intros, Toby? And so I recorded stuff in my bedroom. And what we'll do is, so people can still tune in, we'll put it on YouTube, I think they said. And then they click on a link. We got each of the acts to send us a link to something of them online, so that people who couldn't come to the club could at least get a vague replication of it from home. So we did cool. So we did that the first week, but then the second week, because that was the first day of lockdown, actually, that Tuesday. And then the second week, we'd got Zoom calls up and running, and Roz had got the comedians who we would have had on anyway, because we were booked up quite far ahead, to do this thing on Zoom, and they'd set up a Twitch channel. We may have rode on the back of somebody else's Twitch channel for a bit, I can't remember, but we got up and running that second week of lockdown. We had a show like this, but with 4 stand-up comics and me comparing, and I do a little bit, and then I hand over to them, and they do. Some have just done their set, some have done stuff that they've written specifically for lockdown or for Twitch or whatever. I actually think when it started off, people, I think, tried to be a little bit too clever, and actually as we've gone on, it's sort of gone back to basics, and people have gone, no, I'll just do funny stuff to camera, rather than, I think, as I say, people tried to mess around a little bit at first and tried to reinvent the wheel. But that's fine. It's an experimental night anyway. But
and what's the Twitch channel? What's the name?
It's called twitch.tv/XS Malarkey. The comedy club is called XS and X and then an S Malarkey, Excess Malarkey. And we do that every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And it's been really interesting because we were talking before. It's a sort of, because it's live, although it does stay up on the channel for a couple of weeks. So if you go to that channel later, there's an archive and clips and stuff. But the comedy, the people who used to meet up there on a Tuesday night convene, but also we've had people who used to come when they were students in Manchester or whatever, who've moved away, who suddenly go, it's great now because I can go to Excess Malarkey on a Tuesday night as well. But the other thing we've done, which surprises me, nobody else seems to have done, is because we weren't hidebound by geography, we've had comics from all over the world, from New Zealand, from the States. We've had a load of American comics who've never gigged in the UK before, gigging for us. We've had Judah Friedlander from 30 Rock. We've had John Glazer from Parks and Rec. We've had, also, and we just basically, Roz is very good. She just got in touch with those people, and the club's got a bit of a reputation, and all it needs is somebody like Eddie Pepitone to do it, and then somebody else will do it. And I think people get it that also we don't deliberately set out to make money, and yet we've still managed to. This is the other thing: we've paid 4 comedians every week at a time when comedians have no work, and
that's beautiful.
That has been entirely because it's free, because it's on Twitch. So we sell tickets, but people are under no obligation to pay. We can't stop them coming in. But we've had some regulars who, at the start of every month, pay £100. Do you know what I mean? Which and some people come and don't pay. And of course, some people can't pay because they're not earning. So we're there for them as well. So it's very much a community spirited kind of thing. But I have to say, we have been fiscally efficient. We've done it. We've paid people and we've kept going without subsidy of any kind apart from the audience.
And during lockdown, that's incredibly important because nobody's getting together.
Yeah, and particularly for, I know really experienced and very good comics who are, having to retrain, who are getting no work. And I think when we go back, there are a load of those smaller comedy clubs in independent venues or whatever aren't going to open again. So the landscape is going to be very, very different. So it's going to be really interesting. But, again, people have been quite inventive and put on their own online shows. And you've got to do it. You've got to adapt.
Oh, yeah. So you've mentioned your acting and writing and, of course, podcasting. Which do you like better? I know it's like trying to pick your kids, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm really enjoying doing the podcasting, sort of because I'm my own boss, but I don't see it as important or as much of an achievement, because anyone can do it. I think I've always got the most satisfaction when I've been given a job, not by anybody I know, not by, either through a process of audition or because somebody likes my work or whatever, as a sort of needy self-employed person. When you've been through a process and somebody gives you a job in a proper thing that people have put money up for, that somebody else's money is, they're prepared to put it where your mouth is. And my dream was always to be an actor. I've always written stuff, but again, largely like with the comedy, to give myself something to do. So I've written things for me to be in, largely. And then I've had some opportunities and I thought, oh, well, it'd be interesting to write something where I'm not in it, because that might make me do it differently. And actually there's a bit of a pride about then stepping away and watching it happening without being a part of it. And I've quite enjoyed that too. But if I was to draw a line tomorrow and you just go, right, you're going to do one thing that you haven't it would be, I would love to just be able to turn up in something that somebody else was doing with a script that somebody else has written and a really nice part and really good lines, learn those and do the part. That would be, that was always my dream, to be acting and stuff. So I think if it was to be one, it would be that, and largely because I don't always want to be the one driving the train.
What you've done, in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done 2, the big 3. You've done Emmerdale and you've done Corrie. Are you going to go for the third? Are you going to go for the big one?
What, the EastEnders?
No, River City.
Oh, haha. A good friend of mine was in River City for many, many years. Robin Lang. I've never actually seen it because we don't get it here.
You don't know what you're missing.
Is it good?
My son's been in it. My son's done kind of extra work on it. He's getting an upcoming episode which I can't talk about because I'll get me in trouble. But it's one to watch. It needs subtitles even for Glaswegians. Just let's put it in there.
Great, I love it. My friend Robin was a policeman in it, I think, for years. But I've done Coronation Street 3 times.
Wow.
I've only done Emmerdale the once. I mean, that it's. I have to say, the first time I got a part in Coronation Street, it was heartening because when you say to people you're an actor, they go, "What have you been in?" And if you go, "Oh, Hadoke or A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Royal Exchange," you can see the disappointment in there. But at least if you go Coronation Street, they go, "Oh, I know that. Okay, you're legitimate." I'd like to do a bit more. I'd like to have a good run at something on telly. I've had some nice parts. I had a nice bit in a thing called Casualty 1907, and I had a good part in Holby City. But never. I was never on set for more than 2 or 3 days. So I'd like to. I'd really like it if I had a good sort of run at something. Also because I think you get better. And tele acting is a real skill, and I think you and a really technical job. And I feel that I probably got plenty still to learn, and that keeps you on your toes, and I think stops you getting into a rut. So I'd like that as an experience, I think.
Cool. So during lockdown, what have you been watching?
Oh my giddy aunt. We've watched.
Give us your recommendations. Give us.
Yeah, we need some more stuff to review. Go for it.
Well, we've done all of Spiral, which is the French detective series on all 8 series are on iPlayer, which is great. And I'm in a telly club. It's a terribly a friend of ours. We know a couple, and one of this couple is in a book group, and she was, and so the other one, who hasn't got time to read, who is a writer, funnily enough, said, "Well, all right, if you're in a book group, I'll do a telly group." And I was very flattered to be asked to be in this telly group. And the first time we met was, we met in a pub. We all sat around and chatted about the program that we watched. And then, of course, lockdown came. So we do it like this. We do it on Zoom. And so that's quite good because you get set things to watch that you otherwise might not. I always think it's best if somebody sets you something out of left field that you might not ordinarily watch. So we did BoJack Horseman, which I thought was absolutely terrific. I loved, and I want to watch the rest of it. We only did the first series, which I don't think I probably would have watched, and I thought was superb. But then there was some stuff on iPlayer. Was it Small Axe, the Steve McQueen BBC series of different plays, which were a mixed bag, but I thought it was quite old-fashioned in that it was one of them particularly reminded me of an old BBC 70s play for today, which I thought was fascinating to see that done, in the modern way. I thought was great. But we've watched the usual stuff. What have we watched? I've just done the whole of a thing called, the reason I'm tired, the reason I'm in bed is because I stayed up all night watching 000. And television it's funny, I was saying this to somebody, television now is almost at a much more languid pace. About 10 years ago, we talk about old telly and people go, "Oh God, it was so slow." And I think then suddenly drawing things out a bit and episodical things, whereas in a film you'd see an envelope being posted. Now you'd see the envelope on the table, and they'd both be glorious pastel colors, and they'd be production designed to the hilt. And you'd see you know, and it would be written on a funky pen, and you'd see, and the handwriting would be beautiful, and there'd be a soundtrack playing over it, and you'd see it written, you'd see it put in the envelope. Then you'd see the walk down a street that's again beautifully colored and framed, and then see it posted. And it seems to be that now television, and for a while that was very refreshing, because you'd always go, oh, modern telly, it's all bish bang bish, and it's too, you know, there's no time for subtlety. And now I do look at some stuff and go, I think they could be quicker than this and not and not lose anything. Very much did like Spiral, but I have to say each series wouldn't have been 12 episode longs if every time they chased a villain they occasionally caught one, rather than red van. And of course it's in France, so it's very good bread, but nonetheless. What did we watch? I did like the Queen's Gambit. I thought that was very good.
Yes, yeah.
That was a fantastic show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that central performance was superb. Although I have to say, I think if drug and alcohol addiction makes you that swish and attractive, not a blotch or a bloat, I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. You know?
I just have to wonder how they got her eyes that big.
Oh, amazing!
They're huge.
Yeah,
and you can fall into them.
It's like drugs and chess. Who'd have ever thought it? So it's kind of taken over. And that's a great program that I like to do as well.
Yeah, I thought it was terrific. And again, it goes to show, because I've not got much interest in chess at all, if you do something well enough, it doesn't really matter. That's the great thing about good drama, is that, you know, you can get drawn into it. But yeah, I liked that. I should have thought, because we've watched a lot. We've watched a lot of telly. And it's all gone out of my head now. So we might have to come back to that one. Things will pop into my head. Because we've pretty much not blooming stopped, because there's not an awful lot. There's not an awful lot else to do. And stuff's still getting made. We watched a thing called Life on BBC One that a friend of ours was in, that was written by Mike Bartlett, who wrote the Doctor Who episode Knock Knock, and that was very nice. That got Peter Davison in it, and that was very good, and a brilliant performance from Victoria Hamilton, really good. We're very lucky with the casts we get in stuff these days. There are a lot of good actors about, and a lot of UK actors doing well in the States as well. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, 000, the two main parts really are Andrea Riseborough and Gabriel Byrne, lead, you know, both playing Americans, but neither of them American, you know, leads playing Americans in an American show. We've been very indulged as a profession by America. I think if I was an American actor, I might be a bit pissed off sometimes, because a lot of the cast of the Queen's Gambit playing the US parts were people like Thomas Brodie Sangster, who's English, and Harry Melling, who plays her mate who teaches her, is Patrick Troughton's grandson.
From Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So is that a case that it's British actors are better, or British actors are cheap, or a bit of both?
I think we're cheaper. I think because I don't know. It's difficult to say what's better, because there's some damn good American actors, very good screen actors in the States, and there's a lot of screen training. But there's something about our theatrical training that seems to appeal to American casting directors and American directors. And I also think, from what I know from friends of mine who've worked out there or worked, I also think there's a certain innate British sense of gratitude that you've got a job, which means you don't whinge about your trailer. And I think I had a really interesting conversation with a British actor, actually. I think he could name it. I don't think he'd mind me saying it was Joe Marcel, who played Geoffrey in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the different attitudes of British and American actors, and he said that he didn't realize, somebody took him aside and said, you need to be more demanding. And he said, but I'm happy, I'm getting paid well and I get treated well. And they said, yeah, but they don't respect that. He said, the reason that everybody comes in on the first day and moans about their trailer and moans about thing, is because what the producers want is when they're having lunch with the execs and the other producers to go, this actor came in and he broke my balls, and he wanted, he wanted an extra $5,000 an episode, so I knocked him down to $2,500. So I struck that deal, and they as producers get their brownie points for dealing with temperamental actors and getting a good deal out of them. So if you're not a temperamental actor, the producer's metal has not been tested. So that's why it has that sort of domino effect.
Yeah.
Of personnel management, which then creates the diva system and the demanding and the I need blue wallpaper on my trailer. Because if you don't do that as a leading actor, you don't demonstrate your status, and also then you haven't been handled, and if you've been handled successfully, that means the producer has done their job well. So it's a crazy system where probably nobody wants to be difficult, but unless anybody is, the whole system collapses in on itself.
So nothing's got on diva behaviour. That's interesting to know. I'll let Sean know if he takes the acting route after university.
Absolutely.
He's
Absolutely.
good at it just now at home.
Kick off on the first day. Yeah.
My son's very good at it just now, so I think he'll be fine.
Oh, very good.
Well, Eddie, you have more questions.
I did, but I'm going to steal one of yours. It was
Okay.
Moss ate my Doctor Who scarf. I mean, you hinted there about the stuff that you're all writing you wrote for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you took that, and that was at the Edinburgh Festival. Can you tell us a wee bit more about that? Because it's just, was that your gateway? Was that something that was kind of a personal project that helped get you avenues other way? Again, I'm thinking selfishly about my son. My son is a scriptwriter who does a bit of acting as well. So it's kind of touch points there. So
yeah, it's absolutely created the monster you see before you now. I was a jobbing actor. I was a jobbing comic. I was a massive Doctor Who fan. I didn't know any Doctor Who, any organised Doctor Who fans. I've got a couple of mates, but I didn't know. I wasn't part of fandom. I didn't know anybody who made the DVDs or wrote for the magazine. And I'd look at that stuff and think, well, when they did Talking Heads programs, and I'd see mates of mine who were comics sort of on those shows talking about Doctor Who, and then go, well, oh, come on. But they were very much, it was all very separate. And then just as Doctor Who started coming back and being talked about again, I started talking a bit about it on stage, partially because I've got a regular comedy club where I'm there every week. So you have to just sort of talk about what's happening. And largely what was happening was I was thinking a lot about Doctor Who. So I started sort of speaking about it and you could, and getting comfortable on stage talking about it. And moths had eaten my Doctor Who scarf. I had a Doctor Who scarf that I knitted as a kid, and I'd been going through some stuff a few years before, and I found this scarf and it had been eaten by moths, and I thought that was a great metaphor for destroyed innocence and for all those dreams we have as a kid. There's nothing more wrapped up in my childhood than Doctor Who and that magic of Doctor Who, and there was nothing more that told me that I was an adult looking at that in tatters. Do you know what I mean? And a friend of mine who had been a comedian and an actor and had decided he wanted to pay his mortgage. So, and he's got good business acumen and he's a bit of a go-getter. He's a bit of a Del boy, my friend Mark, but he's a bit of an entrepreneur. And he'd started a business and he was working, but he sort of kept he vicariously followed my career and came to gigs and stuff like that. So he'd still got a foot in the world, if you like, and was being supportive of me as a friend. And he said to me something at a barbecue. He said, "You should write a book. I've got a thing next week. We'll be millionaires. I've got a thing where you can write a book in 14 days." I said, "I don't want to write a book, Mark. That takes far too much. I'm a performer anyway. I only write stuff for me to perform." He said, "Right, do an Edinburgh show." And I'd been thinking about doing an Edinburgh show because the year before, it was just when you could do things via the internet. And a load of colleagues of mine had been up to Edinburgh, and you could go online and see their reviews and people writing blogs, and you could sort of follow their progress. And it was the first time I got a real pang of going, well, I've been a comic 10 years. Maybe I should go to Edinburgh. I'd never really had that ambition to do it. So Mark said, yeah, do an Edinburgh show. I thought, oh, well, actually, that chimes in with what I I was thinking when I was watching Alan Carr and Jason Manford and people go up there and do quite well, very well. And I said, and he said, yeah, do an Edinburgh show. I think I said to Mark, oh, I've got a great book title though. If ever I was to write a book, it would be called "Moths Ate My Doctor Who Scarf," because that's a good metaphor. And he just basically went, do a one-man show about Doctor Who. That's the answer. Do that in Edinburgh. And then he said, but I'll direct it. And he said, my business will sponsor it. So basically, because Edinburgh's quite expensive, so to put his skip hire business's logos on my posters meant he printed my posters and he paid for my accommodation, which was a big help. So long as he could direct it, which meant that he still got to do his bit of. So he then came around the country with me as I did my previews, and it was very much a show celebrating Doctor Who, and it was a clever show because it was set in 4 different time periods, and some jokes were good, but not chronologically. It was time, and all of those were brilliant ideas, except they didn't work they were too complicated for a comedy show, and I persevered, and then after one preview, driving back, he just went, he said, just tell the story from beginning to end, and take out all the jokes about Doctor Who that don't relate to you and your family. And I went, you're kidding. That's taking out all the important stuff, the stuff that's how great Doctor Who is, the time travel jokes, because I've got jokes that work backwards. He said the audience aren't, they're not seeing it written down. They're not. It's not that they're not clever enough. It's just that that's too hard. And he said the bits that people like best are when you're talking about your childhood and they're identifying with that, or the bits where you're talking about watching Doctor Who with your kids. So then suddenly we had it in order, and it's suddenly when you do it in order, it's an obvious story. My dad left when I was 4, and there was a massive gap in my life, and I filled it with Doctor Who. Then when I came of age to sort of go into adulthood, Doctor Who was taken off the screen. So just at a time when I should be being confident with the world, the thing that is my anchor is gone again. And I'm very angry and have all of those sorts of reactions. And then Doctor Who comes back when I've got kids of my own and I don't quite know how to relate with them because my dad left when I was 4. So, and then Doctor Who was a way in which I gathered my son next to me and we watched on a Saturday night. So the story told itself, and I'm a comedian, so I wrote lots of nice jokes in there. But what I didn't anticipate as well, and also my friend Mark said, I don't swear, because I F and Jeff as a compere and you have to on a Friday night. He said, you're talking about Doctor Who, it seems wrong. And that made the verbal palette of the show better and more interesting and easier on the air, but it also was appropriate because I don't really think about Doctor Who and swearing. So that means it became a family-friendly show, and that means that parents brought their kids. Now, their kids didn't necessarily get the Doctor Who show that they thought they might get. It wasn't a kid's show, but they got something they could watch and listen to. And I've since been written to by people who were kids when they watched it, and they got something else out of it. But the parents also, having come to think they were going to have to sit through their kids like, would come up to me and go, oh God, my dad left when I was younger, or I had to go to a boarding school, or God, I remember the 70s when this happened. And so suddenly there were things in there because Mark said, take out all the Doctor Who jokes that aren't anchored to something to do with your personal development. It means it wasn't a show for Doctor Who fans, except it was, because Doctor Who fans could identify with it, but it was also a show for people who'd never seen Doctor Who before. And in fact, the best reviews I got sometimes were from people who said, look, I've never even seen an episode of Doctor Who, but it communicated to me because you're obviously passionate about it. You can't fake that. And that certainly helped, I think, doing the same show over and over and over again, so that you can't fake that sort of zeal. But yeah, it was the fact that it was about Doctor Who, but yet it wasn't. It was about hopefully, more universal stuff than that. But I can't say that was all deliberate. I'm talking now, looking back on it and going, well, that's why it worked. That's why it got the radio series, and that's why I got to tour it, and that's why it sort of opened up all these doors for me. And I nearly didn't do it that first year, and I got very drunk, and I rang my friend Mark and said, I haven't actually I haven't applied to any of the venues because I'm scared. I haven't written it. I said, and he said, right, I'm gonna get in touch with them tomorrow. And if I'd done it a year later, I think I'd have been one of 4 or 5, because there's lots of creative Doctor Who fans. Let's face it, lots of writers, lots of comedians, lots of actors. If I'd done it the year later, I'd have been one of 5 or 6 shows. The year I did it, I was the only one.
Time is everything there. It's
Oh yeah.
Just so people know, Moffsake, my Doctor Who scarf is available on Audible.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it free?
I'd love to have seen the live show because I think it's far more
Yeah, me too.
immediate and you've got the rapport there.
Well,
But-
the live show is also totally different from the radio show.
Mm.
I basically ripped it up and started again. I wrote it for a new medium, which was great because that was a really interesting exercise, because it had originally been pitched to me by the Beeb. I got 2 pitches on the same time. Audio books, BBC Audio Books said, can we come and record the show and put it out as a live comedy recording? And then Paul Hardy, a producer from Radio 7, said, I'd like you to adapt it as a drama or a comedy drama. And that idea seemed more interesting. And then, you know, we got a bit of extra money, I think, from audiobooks. Who said, well, all right, we won't release the live show. What we'll do is, if you do it as a BBC 7 audio drama, we'll then put that on a CD. So it was a sort of co-production. And so I basically ripped it up and started again and told the same story, but with largely different jokes and with whole different sections. And in fact, the bits I like least about the audio version are the bits that I insisted on shoehorning in from the live performance that I actually don't think. It's only a couple of moments and the producer had said, oh, let's not have those bits in, and I fought for them. And it taught me a valuable lesson, because then when I listened to it, I went, oh, those bits stick out and I don't like those as much. Of realizing that producers produce your work because they like it and don't get so defensive and fight for things because it taught me a very valuable lesson in, I think, perhaps being a little bit more cooperative and not fighting for something on principle, and not seeing interference as the enemy, but actually a positive. It's coming from a positive place of going, I think it would be better without that. It's not a slight on that. It's just saying it will work better without it. And I should have listened, and I've ever since then I have listened more, I think.
One last question, and it's the question everybody wants an answer to. When's the Quatermass book coming out?
Well, my publisher went south, so I'm talking to a couple of other people. Milk Publishing don't publish books anymore.
No, that's gone very
that
wrong.
was my fault. I haven't finished it. If a new publisher, I've talking to a couple of publishers. If they say, right, you have to have it done by now, you know, I'll probably sit down and do it. I've written about 200,000 words.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'd like to get it right, and so I have to do it in spurts. But also, I had loads of stuff to transcribe, which was proving really, really painful. But I've just got access to the transcription service, which means that a couple of very lengthy interviews I've got instead of having to listen, and I'm a terrible typer. Will be like that.
Fair enough.
Nice.
That's good. We're going to be starting to look at Quatermass once we finish it tomorrow, people.
Superb.
It's been long enough. It's time we paid our respects to the old man, quite frankly.
Quatermass in the Pit is I think such an important piece of, let alone sci-fi, just TV drama. It's extraordinary.
And it's led to you naming everything as Bernard.
Well, I have my lovely dog Bernard, but that did come. We went round about the houses, and my son helped, and we'd gone for all sorts of different things. None of them had quite worked. And then my son started suggesting old men's names because he thought it was funny. So at one point we were actually just going to call the dog John Parsons because we thought it'd be really funny just to have a normal name. Do you know what I mean? So where everyone else is shouting Rover and whatever Pluto, and we were going John Parsons because I just. But then he Googled John Parsons, who was, I think, a serial killer. So then we moved away from John Parsons, but then he started going, oh, what about Dennis? What about Eric? And I thought, well, if I leave this long enough, he's going to say Bernard, and I wanted Bernard because of Bernard Quatermass, but also a lot of my favourite actors are called Bernard. I know a lot of Bernards: Bernard Kay, Bernard Holly, Bernard Horsfall. There's a lot of very good Bernard actors. And eventually they went Bernard, and my other half went, "Oh, Bernard's quite a good name for a dog," and I went, "Yes." But unfortunately, it leads to the fact that in the park, I know there are still people who have to double check themselves because my dog's called Bernard and I am called Toby, and Bernard is an old man's name and Toby is a dog's name, and you could tell they're always oh, now hang on, I've got to make sure I've got which one's called which right.
And of course, you have one of the Martians called Bernard.
No, the Martian's called Nigel.
I thought he was called Bernard.
No, the Martian is called Nigel. The dog is called.
There we go.
Yeah.
I've been proven wrong. I like that. That's good.
My Martian is called Nigel.
Right then, boys, do you have anything else? Because we've
No,
been
I
going
was
over an hour.
No.
I was going to say thank you, Toby. That was really good. That was fun.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for putting up with us.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't have to put up with anything at all. You're very nice company, and I'm aware that I do go on. So I hope some of it was useful.
But lockdown,
yes, very much so.
lockdown does end. Give Edinburgh a bye next time. Come to Glasgow. You obviously can cope with the accent. So come to one of the comedy clubs in Glasgow.
Oh, well, I've played the Stand in Glasgow.
Love the Stand. Stand's my favourite.
Survived it.
The last time I was on at the Stand in Glasgow, I was on with Susan Calman and Frankie Boyle.
Wow.
Yes. So I think career trajectory-wise, I've got a bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, it's guys. Come to Glasgow. We'll go to the Stand. The last person I saw there was Quentin Baptiste, the psychic extraordinaire.
Yeah, Alex Lowe. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
It's a lovely city. I haven't been there in a while, but I did Moths there as well. I think I'm pretty sure I did a one night stand there. That would have been a decade ago. But it's a great city. I'd love to see you there.
Okay. I was going to leave it to chat to decide if you'd passed or failed your exam, but I think they're dead. So
we'll take that as
par for the course for us.
Yes. Now, slowly I'm going to get more and more difficult guests for you until you reach the pinnacle, which both Dave Keep and I have achieved, interviewing Ian Levine.
We'll go with the interviews with Ian Levine.
No, I'm not going to approach him for this. Trust me. I can pretend to be him if you like.
Go for it.
No, he'd start shouting. He would. Right. Okay. Thanks, Toby.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
It's nice to talk to you again. And I enjoyed that.
Well,
it was nice to be able to shut up.
Well, it was nice to be asked, and as I say, I hope it was in some way what you were hoping for.
Which Quatermass story is your favourite?
Pit. I think Quatermass and the Pit is.
When we get there, I'll ask you if you want to come and join us to talk about it.
Oh, I can bore you rigid about it.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Who is the best Bernard? Who's the best Quatermass?
It's a difficult one because my first one was Andre Morel because I watched Pit first. He's my sort of view of Quatermass, but he is a bit closer to Doctor Who than I perhaps because he's quite sort of clubbish and he's slightly eccentric and he's slightly sardonic, whereas I think the first two Quatermasses had slightly more mournful countenances and were more in Nigel Neal's idea of a troubled scientist. So although I like what Andre Morel brings to it, I can see why Reginald Tate is perhaps more Nigel Neal's view, or even Andrew Keir. But I think all round, I think for me it's got to be Andre Morel, also because he does science fiction acting well, which, considering it was the late 1950s, all the stuff he has to do in episode 6 where he's in the grip of the Martian inheritance, which is far removed from the sort of drawing room dramas and Shakespearean acting that was expected of people at the time, and it doesn't look hokey, and he does it absolutely superbly. I think Morel is the one for me, but I like them all apart from Brian Donlevy.
Next one should be a woman. That's all I'm saying. Lung Barrow-chan. Hi all, I just want to say thank you to Toby for all his contributions to the Hooniverse. I adore the audio version of Moths and related to many of the anecdotes throughout, including the scene confronting the bully with the quote from the Robots of Death.
Oh, yes.
Best wishes, it's Thomas. Friend of
who's that
mine.
from?
Thomas.
Thanks, Thomas.
He's a friend of mine. He lives Winchester? Somewhere out there.
Yeah, I did use Doctor Who lines at school. Funny enough, I've just done the commentary. I've just done on Robots of Death. I mentioned doing lines from the Robots of Death, and now feeling like I probably sounded like a bit of a Burke. I'd forgotten that I've actually put that into Moths as a hero moment.
I think a lot of us have used that one particular line, the inverse ratio, the size of the brain compared to the mouth. And we sound like complete titser. It's because they look at you as if to go, something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then you get punched.
These are the old days when it wasn't cool to be Doctor Who fan. We're heading that way again, but not quite on a steeper slurve. And I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one, Toby, but I reckon the past year has been Doctor Who fandom's finest hour. Everything that's been done during all the lockdowns, I honestly think Doctor Who fans are just...
I mean, I think Emily Cook is a marvellous, marvellous person, and the sheer positivity that she brings. But also, I watch so many YouTube videos from people like Josh Snares and Gav Rymill's stuff, and the amount of creativity out there that I mean, again, the podcast that I'm doing is sort of what I would like to have done if the BBC were doing a Doctor Who podcast. And you go, well, all right, if the BBC aren't doing it, I'll do it. Which, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But what I mean is that there is stuff out there being done by fans that is of such a high professional standard. They're being brand ambassadors for free for the BBC. And as I say, some of those, I watched something, somebody put a link to the Sixth Doctor regenerating, and it was this thing that's and it's incredible.
It's amazing what they do.
Broadcast standard of somebody, picking bits from here, there, and everywhere and melding them into thing and dubbing and blah blah. The amount of time and effort and energy that takes. But but entertainment is becoming more and more democratic, and you can make a thing now, and there are platforms where you can build your own audience. So mainstream platforms, beware, because if you want to do your own thing, you can build an audience, and there are people out there who do it to a very high standard.
Don't worry, I'll add that to my notes. Audience, like, we need that as well.
It's very true. Thank you, Toby. That's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it, and I'll be in touch. I was going to say something to you too. Oh yes, next week.
Yes.
I know I said Planet of the Daleks, but would you like to do Frontier in Space first, because they sort of run on to each other?
Yes, please. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. In that case, Frontier in Space next week. Fourth Doctor Adventures, Volume 1. Hitler's Brain, and I think it's Project Avalon. This is your fault, Brian.
I know, and I love it.
We were doing Life on Mars, and he hated every damn second of it. And to the point he turns to us, please, can we not do Ashes to Ashes? And so he went, okay, but he's made us do the Tomorrow People. Just remembering that, that's all.
Now you know how I feel.
Right. All right, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you all for tuning in. All still single figures, and
But it's more than 2, so we're good.
Don't forget to check out Happy Times and Places or Indefinable Magic, and the third one whose name escapes me. Bollocks.
Too much information, but they're under the umbrella title of Toby Hadoke's Time Travels, just to make it even more confusing.
That's good. And if you enjoy it,
it's not called Bollocks. Okay, it's not called Bollocks. Maybe go look for Toby Haydoke.
Yeah, but it's such a good word.
Yes.
It just fits everywhere. It's a good word. Oh, hang on. Final question for Toby. Is Doctor Who from House Duclair? What?
Oh.
Or House Longbarrow?
It's because in the original drafts of the pilot, Anthony Coburn did this long, convoluted history about Susan being from a house called Finduclair, the house of Finduclair on an ancient. Unfortunately, all of that they absolutely got rid of, and Lungbarrow, of course, never made it to screen either. So neither I'm very much for. It doesn't matter where the Doctor's from, and I don't want to know the Doctor's history. The Doctor comes and opens windows to all sorts of other possibilities. I don't think the Doctor.
Well, after last year's Doctor Who, everything is now canon, and we love it. We absolutely love the fact now that there's just so many story threads now.
Yep.
Rather than confining it to just 13 or 14 or 15, however many Doctors you want, now it's been blown wide open. I think it's a very freeing thing. I could be wrong.
As I say, I'm not particularly interested in the Doctor's history because there's never going to be an answer that's going to be interesting enough of Doctor Who. So don't answer it. If something says, "Oh, this is going to bust open the mythology," I'd rather you bust open a new planet and new people that I've never met before and told me a new story that the Doctor facilitated. I don't care what effect that has on the Doctor, because the Doctor. So what and what you're saying, if new possibilities are burst wide open, that is great, but it doesn't mean I want to know what street the Doctor grew up in or what their best friend was called or anything like that, because that's when a program starts to eat itself. Doctor Who is about.
There was a certain amount of that in the 80s, to be fair.
Yeah.
But not oddly with McCoy. You can tell.
Doctor is always better when it is not aware or too carried away by its own history.
It's a good example of why Russell T Davies got rid of the Time Lords in the first place.
Yeah, it's a mainstream program that a small 1% of the audience, like us, can go into the minutiae and explore if we want to. But Johnny Briggs, who's come home from a hard week's work, who's sitting in front with his tea on his knee with his family around him, they can all watch it and enjoy a fun, exciting, scary, crazy sci-fi adventure that is nonetheless accessible enough to be in their 21st century living room on a Saturday tea time, and them have not seen an episode before and still think it's incredible. If it starts talking about stuff that they have no idea what it is, then it stops being a mainstream program. When Doctor Who's not a mainstream program, it's dead.
Yeah.
Radox Green, we're going to wrap it up, but just to say what Radox Green said, it's taken away any threat to the Doctor if there are unlimited regenerations. The Doctor just becomes another Jack Harkness. They'd get round that somehow.
Yeah, but you can always if you make a threat credible enough, you can just add a line that goes, and this laser beam is one that destroys people who have unlimited regenerations. Again,
they did it with Missy.
I don't worry about the mythology changing either, particularly, because it's either threatening or it's not.
Yeah. Right then, that's it for today. You know what you got for homework this week?
Look forward to it.
Well, it's giving you something to watch and listen to. It's 2 Tom Baker stories, by the way, on the audio. All right. Big Finish were kind enough to let us have it, so we got to talk about it. I'm looking forward to that, actually, because it's Leela as well. They have just done amazing work with Louise Jameson. They really have.
Right.
And Toby, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have you back for Quatermass and the Pit.
Love to.
Okay. Right then, boys and girls, that's it for the moment. We're back again next Sunday, she said, trying desperately to get the closing titles ready. Standards, we have them. And
They're long.
Yeah, that's it. Say goodbye, everyone.
Say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Here we go. Hooray!
You've got to fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more. And life and love and happiness are well worth fighting for. They're well worth fighting for.